everyone, and welcome back to the Gen GTM show, the high impact series, which is very short and where we bring operators and GTM leaders who are truly shaping the future of SaaS and the go to market. So, I'm your host, Jen Dawson, founder and CEO of SaaSNova, where we help SaaS founders accelerate the GTM with hyperscalers, activating marketplace and co-sell and truly helping them to build a repeatable revenue motions that actually scale. Today, I'm genuinely excited. Excited is an underscore word about this conversation. We have someone who has truly been at the center of the founder momentum inside AWS. So, someone who has seen the patterns, honestly, not just patterns, but pitfalls and the opportunities across hundreds of startups. So, joining me is Priya Koratkar, who leads AWS startups, and she brings one of the clearest perspectives I have seen on what truly takes a founder to break through in the AWS ecosystem. So, Priya, thank you for being here.
Jen, thank you for having me. So good to see you again.
So good to see you, Priya. So, before we jump in, Priya, for anyone who hasn't had a chance to work with you yet, can you just take a minute to give a quick intro on your role and the work you lead across AWS startups?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everybody. My name is Priya Koratkar. I run a multi specialist segment within AWS startup organization and been with AWS for about since 2018, so 8 years now. And in that time, I've had front row seat in learning and understanding how AWS customers leverage AWS beyond infrastructure. So the primary goal for my team is to enable them to be as successful as they can be on AWS. And the critical parts of that are go to market, right? So beyond being an infrastructure partner for them, we look for ways to support them in their startup journey. Within the last 5 years, I've had the privilege of working with multiple thousand startups and helping them go from 0 to 100. And the goal there was how do we help them accelerate that fastest and get most value out of the AWS partnership. Um, my team focuses on some specialized verticals like cybersecurity, ISV, AIML, and in addition to that, a geography which is based in west of North America, but from a cybersecurity perspective, all of North America. So I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Priya, for the intro. That's perfect. So let's jump into it. So, Priya, you have this great advantage where you've seen thousands of founders at different stages, right? As you mentioned, different industries, different levels of, GTM maturity as well. Love to get your viewpoint leading AWS startups. What are the GTM patterns that you are seeing among the founders who are truly breaking through right now?
Yeah, this is actually a really good question because after having worked with so many for so many years, I think a clear pattern has emerged in my mind. And if I were to break it down in like maybe three specific areas, right? The first thing that comes to mind is the founders who've been really successful have a very clearly articulated, differentiated value proposition, meaning they're solving one problem and they're solving very well, and they know who their ICP is, and they know what is the business impact that they're driving for their ICP. So they're very articulate about that, the solution that they're offering. How do they differentiate? Why do they differentiate? And what is it that's going to make this ICP successful and de-risk when they're making a bet behind a startup? Because at the end of the day, startups are early and a decision maker is somewhat taking a gamble on you.
That's right.
So this is number one, is like really clear articulation of what problem are you solving. The second thing is they are looking at AWS not just as an infrastructure provider. Like I mentioned during my introduction, the vast majority of miss that I see is when founders have not thought about here I have this phenomenal partner who's my infrastructure partner, but they have all these resources who can help me be successful beyond what naturally comes to me. Let me at least have a conversation. So I've seen those founders be very successful who lean in with their account team and demand for more, right? They're like, give me more, tell me what else can I do with you. So I think that is like leading with curiosity of how they can work with us. And then I think lastly, but most importantly, is building go to market from day one. So having that scale mentality. Like if you're looking around the corners and thinking about all the various ways that you can actually build a scalable future enterprise, then you're setting yourself up for success. I think too often I've seen there, if you're too tactical and you're trying to just think about it for now and let me just go get this initial wins, then you're not thinking scale and you're missing out the opportunity. You're tapping into the AWS ecosystem, which includes not just AWS but the partners surrounding who are on standby to support and help you be successful. So I would say thematically those three things primarily.
Awesome. That resonates so well, Priya, particularly your last point that you said about scale, right? Because AWS is all about scale. And as a starter, founder for, or a startup company, you have to start thinking about scale, different geo scales, and I think scale is super important. And another thing that you mentioned is incredibly helpful, and honestly, it truly aligns with what I'm also seeing every day with SaaS founders trying to scale in different channels. Right. One of the things that you touched on is ICP. You would be amazed like how many startups are trying to enter into US market or any market without having a clear ICP defined. There is no joint messaging. So you hit those hit the nail on the head, I think there. So now I want to flip the lens a little bit and um, I want to focus on what founders misunderstand about working with AWS, right? Again, you work with so many early stage founders who are really excited about AWS, but maybe don't fully understand how to engage or even what to prioritize, right? So, from your perspective, what do early stage founders consistently misunderstand about working with AWS? And what is the one advice do you wish more of them truly followed from day one?
See, now you're putting me on a spot because I have so many advice, not one. It's hard to contain, only because I've seen so much. Okay, if I have to give the number one thing that I see,
Yeah.
is like I think the biggest misunderstanding is the assumption that if you list on marketplace, floodgates of leads open.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Right. And I have to all the time warn them when you're doing this is that I want to set your expectations right. Think of this more as actually a procurement engine for your target enterprise customers who are on AWS, and the additional value that marketplace can bring for you, reduce friction in your procurement channel, because you'll be riding on the AWS paper, which is one of the biggest deal killers, to be honest, for startups, because as they start negotiating those legal contracts, a deal which could close in like 15 days or 2 months now has all of a sudden become a 9-month ordeal because they are having to like redline a lot of documents, right? And it's a David versus Goliath situation where they don't have a whole lot of negotiating stake at that point because they're probably chasing their dream like whales that they want to get in front of. But I think they miss that mark of understanding the value that marketplace can bring. It is not a lead generation engine, but it is more an enabler in your sales cycle to accelerate your deals, help you procure, and potentially differentiate yourself from someone who may not be listed on marketplace. Because I think what's critical for them to understand is, let's say you're at the final stages of negotiations with one of your dream customers, one of the large Fortune 50s. More than likely they are billing on AWS. More than likely they have some type of a committed contract with AWS. And by going through marketplace, now it helps them with, burn down their commits with AWS. If they were deciding between you and two others, and the decision now comes down to, well, all of them look pretty
Same.
good,
Yeah.
right? What
Uh,
is that one lever that you could pull would be marketplace, because it gives them the ease of procurement, gives them that ability to like use your whatever they're spending on your subscription or
right.
however you bill, to now burn it down against the AWS commits. So it's like a double whammy. So if you're not taking advantage of that, I think it's a miss.
Got
And
it.
then if you're thinking about it as a lead generation engine, that's a huge miss too, because it
Yeah.
takes time, like
Yeah.
everything else, right? It takes time.
Right. So what you're saying is, if I build the concept of build the marketplace listing and they will come is wrong. Okay. It's not the right understanding of the marketplace, right? That's
They will not come immediately, not just with marketplace. As you're intimately aware, Jen, we have our whole co-sell, co-build, co-market motions,
right.
and each one is of extreme importance depending on what you're trying to do and the stage at which you are in your like go-to-market journey. And I
Right.
think leaning in on each of them has a flywheel effect eventually. And
Got
I think knowing that is critical. So eventually, marketplace will help you get there, but that alone or listing alone, now you can't sit back and think,
exactly.
okay, I'll let the floodgates open and let me become
Exactly.
next
Exactly.
enterprise.
And you touched on something else, right? That just triggered my mind because as startups, as a founder of startup, right, they are always looking at AWS or other hyperscalers like, okay, when will I'm going to get my first genuinely, what is a timeline for me to get my first opportunity back from AWS, right? Say if I'm a new startup company, I've listed everything on marketplace. Immediately I know for sure it's not it become a true lead gen engine. So from your perspective, what would you tell a founder? What is the time frame that he can expect uh, opportunity to come back from AWS?
I think that's a very important question, and I think the critical distinction here is not so much time. It is about it's almost think about it like an input goals versus output goals, right? The the more diligent you are in doing some of the input work, the better your output is, and you can greatly influence that by being a lot more diligent in your input goals. Now, what do I mean by that, right? As a startup, you are trying to build a brand for yourself within AWS and outside AWS. And as most of us who've been in go to market know, that takes time. Building brand takes time. And like I mentioned, it's a mix of multiple things. It's a mix of, am I doing enough early stage marketing, top of funnel, bottom of funnel? Do I have that figured out? Do I have my messaging crisp? Do I know my ICPs and am I targeting the right people? Do I have a really strong better together story to tell with AWS? And have I done some of those integrations to then leverage AWS to maybe help me promote that better together story? Like, am I putting out blogs? Am I doing joint webinars? Am I letting our joint customers see the value that I bring alongside with AWS? So I think the more you do that in a regular cadence and you work closely with the partner team on AWS side, our partner ecosystem that we have who are like ready to support you with some of those, because as a startup, your most valuable resource is your time,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
if you and that's sort of like a trade-off that the startup founders are always wondering, like, I know there's so much work that needs to go into this and I don't have the time right now. That's
Yeah.
what I tell them. I'm like, work with our partners. We have fantastic partners who are on standby to help you, because that time that you're not investing is time that you're losing in getting that flywheel effect sooner.
Yes. Yeah.
So I feel like the answer is not so much what is the time. I think you can crunch the time much more if you take the advantage of all the partner ecosystem that we've built, the internal resource that we've built, and honestly, like put them to work, because these
Yeah.
are people who know what they're doing, who've
Yeah.
done this many, many times over, and they can accelerate that
Yeah.
result for you.
Because honestly, that's the biggest question and single most important question that I'm asked as well most of the time. So I think your response was spot on there. Inputs versus outputs. So my closing question is about opportunities that founders should lean in into 2026, right? With everything that's happening across, marketplace or co-sell and AI and everything, founders they are not short of opportunity to work or anything, but with also those opportunities comes so much noise also, right? So what, from your point of view, what opportunities should founders lean in across AWS marketplace, co-sell, or even the broader startup ecosystem as we move into 2026?
Yeah, I think I touched upon this slightly earlier as well, but I think be razor focused on the problem you're solving because you're right. There are now with the advent of like vibe coding, there are startups that are coming out like,
Oh, yeah.
like waterfall right now.
Yeah.
There's just so many startups, so
Yeah.
many ideas. It's easy to build a product. What's
Mm,
not easy is to sell the product, right?
mm,
So really knowing what is the value you're adding and in which space. Given that AI is top of mind, frontier AI is everywhere. If you have a startup that actually makes the adoption of that easier or makes the adoption of that faster or removes blockers or clearly defines ROI, that's most top of mind for people. Like most of the customers I'm talking to are constantly wanting to adopt AI into either their product portfolio or use it for, increasing operational efficiency. But I think there is that constant like, is this the right amount of inputs again versus the
mm,
ROI? Like,
mm,
how do I establish that? So if that's something that you do, I think that's resonating really well. But I think more from a if you are a startup that was pre this era and you have figured out your target market and now you're thinking about how do I best leverage AWS in 2026. I would say if you've not yet, please reach out to your account team, start having those conversations, understand what that path looks like, leverage our partners to help you fast track that path so
yeah.
that you're not trying to like reinvent the wheel, if you will, because there are folks ready and standby to support
Mhm.
you. And then leverage all the resources available from AWS. There is so much improvement that's happened since the time we launched Marketplace to now. Take advantage of that. Take advantage of your partner ecosystem. Have very clear messaging. And I think the most critical thing I would say is learn how to message your offering to AWS sellers versus your customers. I think
Mm.
the common pitfall I've seen is when they try to use the same messaging for AWS sellers,
Same
but
as
then
two.
go like, what? What
Two
it like? It's yeah, because
yeah.
I'm not from your space, I don't understand. You need to. There is a different language that needs to be used when you're talking to an AWS seller,
Yeah.
and I think there are folks on standby who can help you also deliver that and craft that message. So I think those who do that well and will do that well in 2026 will have a much faster track to success.
Fantastic. Know your audience. Very good message. Thank you for sharing your perspective, Priya. This was truly outstanding. I think your clarity is exactly why I wanted to bring you on here, because the our SaaS founders who are following the channel, they need to hear this level of very practical and very grounded guidance as well. So, again, thank you very much for everyone listening. If you found this valuable, follow us along for more conversations with the leaders shaping more cloud, GTM, and also modern SaaS. So, Priya, thanks again for joining me.
Thank you so much. It was great chatting with you, Jen. Bye.
Bye.